She waited for him, until the day the wait turned to silence. Today, I am the one who tells this story. She waited for him every Sunday until the day that I'm just a bench, made of old wood and rusty iron. They put me here before most people were born, in a nearly forgotten corner of the park. My seat is crooked, my screws creak in the wind, and my back bears marks that no one remembers having made. I have been a shelter for open books, silent couples, elderly people with their eyes closed in the sun, and young people who thought they were feeling love for the first time. I have been the scene of interrupted conversations, stolen kisses, and goodbyes that hurt more than they seemed. But nothing, absolutely nothing was as strong as her. The woman in the light dress and slow steps, who chose me as her sacred place. She always sat on the same side, at the same time and on the same day. She called me my waiting place, and used me as an anchor for something the world never realized. Every Sunday for 2 years, she was here, with her hair tied in the same messy bun, with a book in her hands even though she didn't open it, and with her eyes fixed on the entrance to the park. I was waiting for him, a man who was coming, or at least he was coming at first. I saw them together. I saw when he first arrived, I saw her smile when she saw him, and I saw their fingers touch shyly. And then I saw him come less often, I saw her pretend that everything was fine, I saw him promise to come back, and I saw her believe it. And I saw, finally, the day when she stopped waiting. It wasn't abrupt, it was subtle, like a book that closes without fanfare. Like coffee that goes cold without anyone noticing. She just didn't come back. And I stayed here, alone, with the echo of the footsteps that never came. For years I've wondered why stories like this happen. Why some loves begin so carefully, and end without saying goodbye. Today, I'm going to tell you what I experienced. And if you've ever waited for someone who didn't come back, maybe you'll understand that this story is yours too. Because love, when it doesn't end, continues to exist in those who stayed. And sometimes, even a park bench is missed. The day she sat on me for the first time was calm, sunny, and normal for anyone else, but I felt something different that morning. She walked slowly, as if she had no destination, but she had a weight on her chest that could not be seen on her shoulders. Her dress was light blue, a scarf tied around her waist as if she wanted to hold not only the fabric, but also some part of herself that was escaping. She held a book in her hands, closed, and her eyes were full of a longing that still had no name. When she sat down, she sighed as if dismantling an invisible wall, and she stayed there for almost an hour without doing anything, without looking at her cell phone, without opening the book. Just waiting. But that first time, she didn't know exactly for whom. It was only the following week that he arrived. It was Sunday, the same time. She was already there, wearing the same dress, carrying the same book, her eyes fixed on the entrance to the park as if waiting for the universe to give her a sign. And he appeared, tall, unshaven, with a smile that wasn't entirely confident, but carried an almost forgotten kindness. They looked at each other as if they had known each other from somewhere that only their souls could remember. He approached her slowly, sat down next to her, and neither of them spoke for several long minutes. I felt something fit there, as if those two silent presences formed a new thing, a full presence. On the first Sunday, they exchanged few words. She said she liked to watch trees. He said he couldn't remember the last time he had stopped to watch time go by. Neither of them asked the other's name. It was as if they were afraid to formalize a connection that was growing in delicacy. On the second Sunday, he brought coffee in 2 small thermoses. He handed one to her without saying anything. She accepted it with a shy, restrained smile, and they both drank their coffee, looking at the same spot in front of them, without needing to explain themselves. On the third day, she brought a small bag of shortbread cookies and left it in the middle of the bench, between them. He took one and looked at her with silent gratitude. It was a ritual that was created without promises, without declared intentions, but with an emotional frequency that few have the courage to experience. Little by little, the meetings became the center of Sunday. They didn't talk during the week. They didn't text each other. They didn't meet anywhere else. It was just here. Just on Sundays. Just on that bench. And yet, it felt more intimate than any physical relationship. She dressed like someone going on a date with destiny. He always arrived with his hands in his pockets and his eyes searching for her in the crowd at the park. Sometimes she arrived first, sometimes he did. But neither of them was late. The two of them created a world of their own. And I was the guardian of that world. I kept quiet laughs, glances that lasted longer than they should, small gestures, stories told calmly. Every detail of the other was discovered like someone leafing through a book afraid of ending it. She laughed easily when he told her something simple about his childhood. He became serious when she spoke of her fear that it was all unreal. They understood each other even in the pauses, even in the silences. She once said, "Do you believe that we can love someone just by existing by their side, without plans, without demands?" He answered with a yes that didn't come from his mouth, but from his eyes. And she believed him. The months passed, and the Sundays continued. Rain or sun, heat or wind, they were there. With or without words. With or without coffee. Sometimes just watching the branches of the trees sway, as if the leaves could translate what they felt and couldn't name. They didn't kiss. They didn't touch each other with desire. They didn't sleep together. But they lived in intimacy that most couples don't know, that of being whole, even when separated. It was all so beautiful that it was scary. And she began to feel that way. I felt it first. Her body took a little longer to relax when she sat down. Her smile came more slowly. Her eyes began to carry questions she didn't ask. And he noticed it too. But he pretended not to see, as if afraid that the question would ruin the charm. And then one Sunday, something changed. And that will be the next chapter. At first, it was easy not to notice. Small faults are well disguised when the heart wants to believe that everything is as it was before. The first Sunday he didn't show up, she sat for more than 2 hours. The book was on her lap, open to the same page from the beginning, her eyes looking straight ahead but not seeing. Every time someone passed by, she looked up quickly, as if she was sure that he would come now. But she didn't come. She tried to smile to herself, pretending she was there for another reason. She ran her fingers along the side of the bench as if seeking comfort in me. And at the end of that afternoon, before getting up, she said softly, almost in a whisper, "Something must have happened. He'll be back next Sunday." And she left with shorter steps, as if something had pinned her feet to the ground. The following week, she returned as usual. Same time, same light dress. Her hair tied up in a different way, perhaps to convince herself that she was renewing something inside. And she arrived. She did. But this time, he was late. 23 minutes, I counted. She had already taken the coffee out of her bag, put the book down beside her, and hugged her knees like she did when she was uncomfortable. When she saw him approaching, her eyes lit up. But the glow was short-lived. He smiled, apologized, said something about scheduling confusion. She just nodded, trying to hide the relief that was already mixed with fear. That Sunday they talked less. The silence was not as comfortable as before. It was dense, almost suffocating. She tried to remind him of the first time they saw each other. He smiled but didn't remember it well. She spoke of the crooked tree in the corner of the square. He said he had never noticed. I felt the weight of asymmetry when one still lives in the encounter and the other has already begun to say goodbye inside. The following week, he didn't come again. Nor the week after that, nor the week after that. But she kept coming, Sunday after Sunday. She brought the same coffee, the same cookies. She sat in the same place on the same side of the bench. And she looked at me as if I were the only witness to a promise someone had forgotten to keep. Sometimes she cried in silence. Other times, she laughed alone at memories that came like flashes, unexpected, painful and sweet at the same time. She never complained, she never blamed, she just waited. And that was the most beautiful thing, and the saddest thing I've ever seen. She still believed, even when logic told her he wouldn't come anymore. Even when pain took the place of hope. Even when her heart got tired of beating in the dark. She told herself every week, maybe he's confused. Maybe something happened or maybe he needs time. But she never said, maybe he doesn't want to anymore. Because accepting that would be like losing everything at once. And then came the day when she brought a flower. It was small, simple, picked from her own garden. She placed it on me, right in the center of the bench and stared at it as if it were a symbol of something only she understood. Maybe it was a request or a goodbye disguised as hope. She stayed a short time that day, less than usual. She left before the sun went down, without looking back. And I felt it. I felt that something inside her was starting to change. It wasn't giving up, it was tiredness. Because even the purest love gets tiring when only one side carries it. She arrived early that day. Not because she was anxious, but because she had slept badly. She spent the night going through memories as if she were leafing through letters she had never written. She chose the same light-colored dress as always, but she wore a discreet lipstick, as if she still wanted to feel beautiful, even if it was for no one. She walked towards me with hesitant steps, her eyes lowered, her heart heavy, but without admitting to herself what she already knew. She sat down, adjusted her dress over her legs with automatic care, took a deep breath, and for the first time, she didn't take the coffee out of her bag. She stood there, motionless, as if waiting for time itself to make a decision for her. The park was quiet. Some children were running in the distance, a couple was laughing on the other side of the fountain, and an old man was feeding the birds, just as he had done on Sundays since before she started coming. Everything was the same. Everything except her. Because that Sunday, Helena was no longer the same. The weight had transformed her soul into something thinner, more fragile, almost transparent. And no matter how much I tried to hide it, the weariness of my soul began to leak through my eyes. And hers could no longer hide it. She stood there for over an hour, staring at the entrance to the park. She didn't blink much. Sometimes she would shift on the bench as if she wanted to appear at ease, as if he could arrive at any moment. But her gaze was distant. The kind of gaze that only someone who is saying goodbye has. Not a farewell to the other person, but to herself. To the version of herself who waited too long, who believed too much, who loved in silence for too long. At one point she picked up the book. Not to read. She simply opened it to a random page, as she had done on their first dates. She ran her fingers over the words as if searching for clues, as if some verse could explain what she was feeling. She stopped at an underlined line, one of those he had marked months ago with his firm handwriting. She read in silence. Love that waits too long becomes a memory before it becomes reality. She slammed the book shut, took a deep breath and closed her eyes for a few long seconds, as if holding back tears, as if holding back the end. I felt her body shrink, not from the cold but from decision. Then she stood up slowly. She looked at the place where he used to sit, next to her, a space now empty and cold. She touched my wood with her fingertips as if thanking me. Then she placed the book in the center, next to a small flower, and left it there. She stood there, silent, looking at that small improvised altar she had built with what was left, memories and delicacy. I wanted to hold her hand, I wanted to tell her that I understood, that I felt it too. But benches don't talk. They only store. And at that moment I stored it all. The silence, the love, the end. Before she left, she said something I almost didn't hear. Quietly, as if speaking to the heart in secret. I've waited long enough. And she turned her back. She didn't look back or cry. She didn't run, she just walked. With her head held high, but her soul tired. And with her, she took the last thread of hope that still lived inside me. The following Sunday was the longest of my existence. He didn't come either. But that day, there was no one waiting for him. I was empty. The book was still here, the flower wilted. And the silence, definite. The hours passed slowly, the sun set lazily. And I, for the first time in a long time, felt that I had witnessed the end of something sacred. In the following weeks, she didn't come back. And I didn't know if I should wait for her, or for him. Maybe neither. Maybe just for myself, keeping memories that no one else will visit. But I still remember everything. The quiet laughter, the thermoses, the long looks, the unspoken promises. And I also remember the exact moment when she stopped being hope and became longing. Because love, when it insists too much without an answer, breaks. And what's left, sometimes, can't even be glued together. Months passed, and she didn't come back. The flower withered. The book, stood the test of time for a while, until someone picked it up, perhaps a park employee, perhaps someone curious, perhaps fate itself wanting to save what was left of that story. I remained there. Still as always, but not the same. Because after someone uses you as an altar for a love that never happened, you don't go back to being just wood and iron. You start to carry a living story, even if no one sees it anymore. Others came, other people sat on me. They talked, laughed, fought, even slept. But no presence remained. None remained like her. The empty space beside me seemed to hold the shape of her body. And every Sunday at the same time, the air around me seemed denser. As if I, without wanting to, was still waiting. Then one day he came back. Not like he had in the early days, with a light step and a curious look, but with the slow walk of someone who carries guilt on his shoulders. His face was more serious, his eyes sunken. He was wearing a dark shirt, his hair was messy from the wind, and he was holding an envelope in his hand. Yes, an envelope. As if it carried everything he had never been able to say. He approached without looking to either side. He stopped in front of me. He stood for a few seconds, just staring. And then he sat down. Slowly, carefully, as if he recognized me. He looked around like someone looking for ghosts. As if he expected to see her appear between the branches of the trees or come out from behind the fountain with the book in her hands and the tired smile as always. But she wasn't there. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Squeezed the envelope in his hands. After a while, he placed it on the seat next to him and didn't say a word. He stayed there in silence, like in the beginning, as if he wanted to talk to what was left. Then he mumbled something too low for anyone to hear, but I heard him say, "I should have stayed." He stayed a few more minutes, then got up, left the envelope there and left. This time he looked back, once, twice, but he didn't come back. The envelope remained. It was addressed to no one. It was sealed, and there it sat for hours, like a silent offering to lost time. As the sun began to set, a woman walked by with a child by the hand. The little girl ran up to me, saw the envelope and picked it up. "Mommy, look." The woman smiled awkwardly, read the first line written on the back, and hesitated. Then she put it in her purse. I don't know if she opened it. I don't know if she understood it. I don't know if she took it to her. But at that moment, I felt something change. As if the universe had pushed that letter back on the right path. And I realized something. Love has a curious way of circulating. It disappears, it becomes silent, but sometimes it comes back, not the same, not whole but true. And then, a few weeks later, she came back. She came back on a clear day, but with a cold wind. She was different, and at the same time, the same. Her hair was shorter now. Her gaze was firmer. She walked with the posture of someone who carried less weight, but she still carried within her all the stories she had lived, and the ones she had never been able to live. She came alone. Without a book. Without coffee. Without a light dress. Just her. She sat on the same side as always, in the same corner where she had spent so many Sundays. She remained silent for a few minutes, looking around as if meeting an old friend. She touched the wood with affection, as if she wanted to thank him. She didn't seem to be expecting anyone, not him, not the past. It seemed that, for the first time, she was there just for herself. He looked up at the sky, then closed his eyes. He breathed in slowly, like someone who finally breathes without fear. A tear fell, not from pain, but from relief. Because he had come back whole, and that was all that mattered. He stayed there for a long time, calm, serene. Then he opened his bag and took out a letter. It wasn't the one he had left. It was another one, written by her. He placed it on me in the same place where he had left his weeks before. He stared at the envelope as if he were offering a part of his soul, but this time, with the lightness of someone who no longer needs an answer. Then she stood up. She took 2 steps, stopped, looked back and smiled. A small smile, full of silence and meaning. She said softly, "Thank you for saving all this." And she left. That day, I understood that love never ends. It changes shape, place, color, but it never dies. Sometimes it comes back. Sometimes it stays inside us. Sometimes all we need is to find ourselves again where we lost ourselves. And if you ever love so much that it hurts, and then heal so much that you smile, you will understand what she understood. that stopping waiting is not giving up. It is choosing to live. And sometimes, all that remains of a love is the bank that held them both.